Hiya! Today we've got the story of Cinderella. Once upon a time, a girl named Cinderella lived with her stepmother and two stepsisters. Poor Cinderella had to work hard all day long so the others could rest. It was she who had to wake up early each morning, when it was still dark and cold, to start the fire. It was she who cooked the meals. It was she who kept the fire going. The poor girl could not stay clean from all the ashes and the cinders by the fire. "What a mess!" her two stepsisters laughed, and that is why they called her Cinderella. One day, big news came to town. The king and queen were going to have a ball. It was time for the prince to find his bride. All of the young ladies in the land were invited to the ball. They were wild with joy. They would wear their most beautiful gowns and fix their hair extra nice. Maybe the prince would like them, and they would catch his eye. At Cinderella's house, she now had extra work to do. She had to make two brand new gowns for her stepsisters. "Faster!" shouted one stepsister. "You call that a dress?" screamed the other. "Oh dear," said Cinderella. "When can I—" "When can you what?" her stepmother said as she marched into the room. "Well," said the young girl, when will I have time to make my own dress for the ball?" "You?" yelled the stepmother. "Who said you were going to the ball?" "What a laugh," said one stepsister. "Such a mess." They pointed at Cinderella, and all of them laughed. Cinderella said to herself, "When they look at me, maybe they see a mess, but I am not that way, and if I could, I would go to the ball." Soon the time came for the stepmother and stepsisters to leave for the big ball. The fine carriage came to the door. The stepmother and stepsisters hopped inside, and they were off. "Goodbye," called Cinderella. "Have a good time." But her stepmother and stepsisters did not even turn around to wave goodbye. "Oh dear," said Cinderella sadly, as the carriage rode down the street. "I wish I could go to the ball too." Then, puff! All of a sudden, in front of her was a beautiful fairy. "You called?" said the fairy. "Did I?" said Cinderella. "Who are you?" "Why, your fairy godmother, of course. I know your wish, and I have come to grant it." "But my wish is impossible," said Cinderella. "Excuse me," said the fairy godmother in a huff. "Did I not just show up out of thin air?" "Well, yes, you did," said Cinderella. "Then let me be the one to say what is possible and what is not," said the fairy godmother. "Well, I think you know I want to go to the ball too," said Cinderella, sadly looking down at her dirty clothes. "But look at me." "You do look a mess, child," said the fairy godmother. "Even if I had something nice to wear," said Cinderella, "I would have no way to get there." "Dear me, all of this is actually possible," said the fairy godmother, and with that she waved her wand and tapped Cinderella on the head. At once, Cinderella was all clean, and as she turned round looking at all of her cleanness, she saw a beautiful blue gown materialising, and her hair was set up high on her head inside a golden band. "This is wonderful and magical," said Cinderella. "Who said I was done?" said the fairy godmother. She tapped her wand again, and at once a beautiful carriage came into view, with a driver and 4 white horses. Am I dreaming? Said Cinderella, looking around her in amazement. It is real as all things can be, said the fairy godmother. But there is one thing you must know. All of this only lasts until midnight. Tonight, at the stroke of midnight, it will all be over. Everything will go back to how it was before. Then I must be sure to leave the ball before midnight, said Cinderella excitedly. Good idea, said the fairy godmother as she stepped back. My work is done. And with that, the fairy godmother was gone in a sparkle of fairy dust. Cinderella looked around her. Did that even happen? But she was stood in a very fine and pretty gown, with her hair in a golden band. And there was a driver, 4 horses, and a carriage waiting for her. So it must have happened. Coming, called the driver. She stepped into the carriage, and they were away. Over at the ball, the prince did not know what to think. Why do you have that sad look on your face? Asked the queen. Look around you. You could not ask for more finer maidens than these. I know, mother, said the prince. Yet he knew something was wrong. He had met many of the young women. Yet, after he said hello, one by one, he could find nothing more to say to these women. Look! Someone pointed to the front door with a shout. Who is that? All heads turned. Who was the lovely maiden stepping down the stairs? She held her head tall and looked as if she belonged, but no one knew her. There's something about her, said the prince to himself. I will ask her to dance. And he walked over to Cinderella. Have we met before? Said the prince. I am pleased to meet you now, said Cinderella with a bow. I feel as if I know you, said the prince. But of course that is impossible. Many things are possible, said Cinderella, if you wish them to be true. The prince felt a leap in his heart. He and Cinderella danced. When the song was over, they danced again. And then they danced again. And yet again. Soon the other maidens at the ball grew jealous. Why is he dancing with her all this time? How rude! But all the prince could see was Cinderella. They laughed and talked, and they danced some more. In fact, they danced for so long that Cinderella did not see the clock. Dong! Cinderella looked up. Dong! Went the clock again. She looked up. Oh my, she cried, it's almost midnight. Dong! Why does that matter? Said the prince. Dong! I must go, said Cinderella. Dong! But we just met, said the prince. Why leave now? Dong! I must go, said Cinderella, as she ran down the steps. Dong! I cannot hear you. The clock is too loud. Dong! Goodbye, said Cinderella, as she ran down the stairs. Dong! Please stop for a moment, said the prince. Oh dear, she said as one glass slipper fell off her foot on the stairs. But Cinderella had to keep running. Dong! Please wait a moment, said the prince. Dong! Goodbye. She turned and rushed out the door. Dong! The clock was quiet. It was now midnight. Wait, called the prince. He picked up her glass slipper and rushed out the door. He looked around, but could not see her blue dress anywhere. This is all I have left from her, he said, looking down at the glass slipper sadly. He saw that it was made in a very special way, as if it were to fit her foot and no one else's. Somewhere there is the other glass slipper, and when I find it, I will find her too, and then I will ask her to be my bride. From hut to hut, from house to house, the prince journeyed across the town. One young woman after another tried to fit her foot inside the glass slipper, but none could fit. At last the prince came to Cinderella's house. "He's coming," called one stepsister as she looked out the window. "At the door," screamed the other stepsister. "Quick," yelled the stepmother, "get ready. One of you must fit your foot into that slipper, no matter what." The prince knocked. The stepmother flung the door open. "Come in," she said. "I have two lovely daughters for you to see." The first stepsister tried to place her foot in the glass slipper. She tried hard, but it just would not fit. Then the second stepsister tried to fit her foot. She tried and tried with all her might, but no luck. "There are no other young women in your house?" said the prince. "None," said the stepmother. "Then I must go," said the prince. "Maybe there is one more," said Cinderella with a smile, stepping into the room. "I thought you said there was no other young woman here," said the prince. "None who matter," said the stepmother with a hiss. "Come here," said the prince. Cinderella approached him, and the prince got down on one knee and tried the glass slipper on her foot. It fit perfectly. Then, from her pocket, Cinderella took out something. It was the other matching glass slipper. "I knew it," he cried. "You are the one." "What?" shouted a stepsister. "Not her," screamed the other stepsister, enraged. "This cannot be," yelled the stepmother. But it was too late. The prince knew that Cinderella was the one. He looked into her eyes. He did not see the cinders in her hair, nor the ashes across her face. He saw the girl he had seen at the ball. "I have found you," he said. "And I have found you," said Cinderella. And so Cinderella and the prince were married, and they lived happily ever after. Thank you.